Hey, where's Royce? Oh, there's Royce.
Somehow we're all okay. There we are.
Go.
There we are. Hey,
Hey, George.
George.
Hey guys.
George, how you doing? Let me
Good.
thank everybody that's joined us real quick. Let's get back to comments here. Hi everybody. Thank you guys all for joining us. We really appreciate it. Today we have an amazing show for you. This is our friend George Call, a heavy metal vocalist who plays in numerous bands, been on numerous albums. And George is going to be, we're going to interview him, but you know, George doesn't need whole lot of interviewing. George loves to tell his story. He does a fantastic job. In fact, we've had George on once before. And George, you have been one of my absolute favorite guests on this show. And your views, your numbers were like fantastic, you know.
Oh, and, wow, cool.
We really appreciate you coming back and joining us again. And I know you and Dan are really close, and I appreciate that connection.
I love Dan. I love him. Dan the man.
Dan the man. My co-host Dan the man. I couldn't do anything without him. Dan is fantastic. He's got a fantastic show. He just covered a great band. It was Blacktooth, Dan?
Yeah.
From Turkey, right? And they're going to be I think opening for Pantera pretty soon over there somewhere.
Yes, in May 27th in Romania.
No, that's just absolutely amazing.
You know, and I just got word too that they may actually be opening up for Pantera in Bulgaria the day before, so they may get to do it twice.
Okay, they must be really excited because they came all the way over here, you know, for Ride for Dime, right, and participated in that.
Yeah, they played the 2007 and 2008.
Yeah, that's amazing.
George and Aska, they played in 2006. They were the second band to ever play. Second band to ever play at Ride for Dime.
Okay, and you guys were pretty tight though, weren't you? George?
Oh yeah.
You guys, I've seen so many pictures of you with not only Dan but with Dimebag and Vinny and that.
That's where it was at Aska shows where Dan met Dime, and that lifelong love affair began, right, Dan?
Well, I actually met Dimebag years before, but
stop that lying.
Not like we did at Aska. It was Aska. I mean, he was at all the shows and everything, so it was hard
not to know him. Last 2 years of his life, Dime and his brother and, of course, Entourage were probably at, I'd say, a good 80% of our shows in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. He was a regular. And, of course, you know, Aska being the gracious host that we were, we always, whenever we came in, we always had a spot for him on stage. You know, wow, he was always welcome on our stage, and he loved to get up there and play with us.
That's outstanding, man. I really love hearing that. So anyway, let's get right into a little interviewing here. And this is free flowing. We're not sticking to any like format. But what inspired you to start making music, George?
The beginning for me was it all started, believe it or not, with Kiss. And continues to this day. Yeah, I was corrupted at an early age, probably around 5th grade, when my mom told my brother and I that one of her friends' sons was selling a Kiss record at a yard sale because they were leaving to the States. Of course, I talked my brother into, you know, shelling out the $2 for Kiss Alive, and the rest is history. You know what? Yeah, absolutely. Because it started, I mean, at that moment, I knew that I wanted to play guitar. And though I had no knowledge of the instrument, I couldn't play a lick on anything.
Right.
I somehow knew that I want to play. I want to make music. Wow. I want to albums. I want to tour. I want to do everything that Kiss does. I wanted.
You were absolutely inspired by Kiss, you know. I felt growing up at the same age. Of course, I didn't go on to make a lot of music. I didn't go on to make any music. My younger brother did, though. He played all over Las Vegas and all kinds of bands. But anyway, I was the same age when you heard Kiss and got inspired. And I heard Chuck Berry singing "Riding Along in My Automobile, Baby Beside Me by the Wheel." And I was in the middle of a tug of war. My father was all country and my mother was from New York, you know. listened to Bing Crosby and, Dean Martin and all these people, Frank Sinatra. And so they were always trying to like influence me what music to listen to. But as soon as I heard that, I was gone. It was rock and roll. That's all I cared about after that.
Anyway, we have a huge similarity there because my father was all country as well. And when his two sons were, suddenly little rock and rollers, he was like, "Oh no, we're not having that. We weren't allowed to own rock and roll records. If my dad would come home and we'd be listening to them, he would take them and hide them where we couldn't find them." And
I got one. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. Well, I came around to his way of thinking, but much later in life, where I kind of I absorbed that country, those country artists, those outlaw country artists, somehow by osmosis, just by.
Oh yeah, no, they were. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, I love them now.
Yeah,
but at the time,
I do too. Yeah, I've recently bought some Waylon Jennings, and I saw. I've seen several in concert. We live on the Central California coast. It was kind of really ranch-like country. It was all cattle ranches at one time. I live on a piece of property that was once the 3F Meadows Ranch, and they split it up into small acreage and sold it to people to build custom homes on. And we have those all over town. So when we have a mid-state fair, for the longest time, it was about 70% country acts. It went on for like 12 or 14 days with a headliner in the grandstands every night, and then all these free shows that they weren't free. I mean, the people were getting paid. They were sponsored shows, but they were free for us to watch. And there were some great acts there too, But,
where in California? Where in California are you?
Pardon me?
Where in California are you?
Okay, I'm in Atascadero. It's in San Luis Obispo County. Pismo Beach, Morro Bay, Cayucas, Cambria, Paso Robles, Atascadero, San Luis Obispo, other little towns and stuff like that. But it's halfway between LA and San Francisco. They're 250 miles in either direction, right along the coast. So,
it's interesting that you say that, because once again, here we are with another small coincidence. My first ever music concert of any kind of music ever was seeing Freddie Fender at the San Diego, California State Fair.
Awesome.
And it was great. It was California. Yeah. It was a country act, and I loved it. I thought it was great.
Oh yeah, wasted days and wasted nights.
Man, I saw a lot of concerts in San Diego when I was in the Navy.
Yeah,
every Friday that we were in port, I was at a concert. So that was good times.
Yeah. That was my first.
Yeah, we saw some great people here at the Paso Fairgrounds. I mean, when Eddie Van Halen and David Lee Roth reunited, they played here, and we had great seats to that. And I tell you, when the concert was over and we're all screaming for an encore, Eddie came out by himself with a wooden chair and set it down in front of the mic, lowered the mic, and sat there for what must have been 30 minutes and just soloed for everybody. And it was just like everybody just sat there with their mouth open. It was just magical. And I've seen Bob Dylan there, Tom Petty, so many people. I can't even hardly remember. But I've seen a lot of country acts too. I think Alabama came 6 years in a row, and they were pretty big at the time. I think I saw Alabama 3 times, and all kinds of people. But I've seen quite a few concerts. But I don't think I've seen what Dan's seen. Dan got to see Led Zeppelin and some other people like that. And that just
Dan saw Elvis.
Dan met Elvis.
Yeah.
I've seen him, from a distance because I grew up in Las Vegas and Elvis was part of our lives. He had like one of the really early residencies right after Dean Martin and the Rat Pack, and they were right after, the piano player, Liberace. Liberace was like the first ever residency. And then came in the Dean Martin, and then came in Elvis. And then Elvis left to go do something else and came back, and he was huge when he came back, But he was always kind of a part of our lives, just living back there, But we saw him. He was filming one of his movies, something about a racetrack. We had a little racetrack where they filmed some real hokey scenes. Looked like they were going 150 miles an hour in the movie. They're doing about 5 miles an hour, and they drive into a bunch of hay bales. You're like, oh, what the hell is that? But it was fun though, and he was there. I saw a glimpse of him. He didn't take me for a ride in a race car or anything. But anyway, so yeah, this is fun tonight. Glad you're back.
Well, here's something that's pretty cool. In 1995, George and I went to the KISS convention here in Dallas. George got to sing with KISS on. That was pretty cool.
Wow, I'm surprised they didn't snap you up and take you on a tour.
I sang from the audience, but it was fun. And of course, it was. We met the guys. I think it'd been like that was the third or fourth time for me meeting Paul Stanley. Okay. But it was great, and of course Dan got an iconic photograph with Paul that day.
That's really cool. The only one I've met and several times is Eric Singer, and that's because he's my granddaughter's godfather. And so
is that right? How did that happen?
Well, my son-in-law was a musician, and I played in bands at the Rainbow Club, and he was real good friends with Eric Singer before Eric Singer was in KISS, and Ryan Roxy is a great friend of his. I've been around Ryan several times, and Ryan, of course, plays guitar for Alice Cooper, and then her other godfather is who I think is a really undersung drummer, Tommy Clufetis. In Ozzy Osbourne's touring band, Tommy Clufetis, and if you
he's really good.
Look at one of his drum solos online, he's insane. I mean, the guy is outstanding.
I think he's playing with a Sabbath, isn't he?
Yeah, he's Black Sabbath. Well, Ozzy Osbourne or Black Sabbath, he's in both, but he's been with them. 2009, they pulled him in. He was with. Oh God, he was with another band, but they pulled him in 2009 as a temporary to fill in for somebody that left.
He used to play with Ted Nugent.
Rob Zombie too.
Okay, yeah.
But so that from 2010 to the present, he's been a full-time member of the band.
Well, cool. I know him from his stint originally from Ted Nugent and then Black Sabbath. That's how I'm aware of him. I don't know him personally. Okay. He's a great drummer. He's certainly great.
We were in London, England during the end of the road tour for KISS. And we went over to the hotel where KISS was staying. Eric Singer met us down in the lobby. We were walking around London together. And we got back to the hotel, and it was quite an honor for Stefan. Eric said, "Hey, Stefan, Gene Simmons wants you to come up, wants to say hi to you." Stefan goes, "Really?" And he goes, "Yeah." So he got to go up and talk to Gene Simmons a little bit and stuff like that. I just stood in the lobby waiting for him to come back down. I wasn't invited. Anyway, it's all good. So anyway, what are you doing right now? You're still with Aska, but
of course
you make albums with so many other bands. I mean,
I've done records, and I'm in many other bands and have been. Right. Also, I've done a lot of guest recordings on albums. Where I've been asked to guest on a record or to, record on this record or and of course I'm always if the music moves me and it's an artist that I like and whatnot and often when the price is right, I'm down for it,
Right.
And I mean at the end of the day, I got into music because I love this kind of stuff. I love music. And so the fact that so many people have heard my voice and liked it enough to want to include it on their albums and have me sing on their projects and whatnot, it's a quite a humbling experience, but also a great compliment for me. And I enjoy it. I mean, because when I'm gone, what do I leave behind besides my kids? This is my legacy. I'm not splitting the atom. I'm not Albert Einstein discovering the secrets of the cosmos, but I am leaving this body of musical work that I've, been included on and recorded and put out there. And so, I'm quite driven to do that. And immediately I've got several albums coming out here, in this next year or two, We've got the Aska record, of course. We might have talked about that before. It's complete. It's called Night Strike. Keith and I. Keith Knight is the bass player in Aska. He's been there since the first album, and they're now on the soon-to-be 7th album. And we just finished working last Thursday.
The 7th album, wow.
Yeah, our 7th. Yeah, but we just finished on putting together all the layouts for. Because these days, when you release an album, there for a while, it went from, you were doing vinyl, then vinyl and cassette. Then cassette and CD, then just CD, and then now it's kind of gone back to vinyl. So we had to do layouts for vinyl and CD, which are the formats that the album will appear in. And I'm super thrilled that it's come back around to vinyl because when I was a kid, dreaming of getting into music, all I ever wanted was to have a vinyl out there,
Right.
Have an album on vinyl. And the fact that it's come back around and now I've got many albums on vinyl, it's been quite a thrill.
Yeah.
I
know you did the cassette thing for what, the Immortal album?
We did, yeah. Initially, it was cassettes because CDs weren't quite ingrained yet. They had, so we were at the cusp where the CDs were making their takeover, and vinyl was just pretty much a dead medium. It seemed.
It was.
So it was like cassettes, then CDs. With Immortal, we did CDs and cassettes.
Yeah.
And then
not only did you do the cassettes, but you also made them collector's items by making them different colors. Remember that?
We did. We had the red and blue.
You told so many funny stories last time. I mean, you were touring all over the world, and that was with basically entertaining the troops, our American fighting forces, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you did that. I don't know, how much time did you spend doing that?
We did that touring, doing those contract tours for the military for a solid 8 years, 2 to 3 times a year. We'd go out and play, and when I say we played everywhere, that is it is not an understatement. We really went everywhere. From Hawaii,
about 40 countries, right?
With Aska, it was over 40. Yeah, with that. Wow. Now total in my life, then since I've started doing civilian things, I added countries to that number. And I'm presently in over 60 countries.
Wow.
Presently. But with Aska, it was, between 45 and 47 countries that we hit during those 8 years. And I'm talking places that most bands will never tour.
Yeah,
I'm talking Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Israel, Bahrain, Croatia, Bosnia, Slovenia, Macedonia. Places that are just not on anybody's radar to visit.
No, but you did have one tour there where you went to the Mediterranean, right? Now that was a little different.
We had many tours. We went to the Mediterranean and loved every moment.
Oh yeah.
Greece, Italy, Spain, Portugal, Turkey. Even you were talking about Blacktooth a minute ago.
Yeah.
Been there, done that, and love them all. Just what city is Blacktooth from?
Ankara.
Ankara. Okay, we weren't there, but we were. We went to Incirlik, Princelik, Istanbul. We went to Izmir, which is the rich area in Turkey, and very wealthy, very beautiful.
Their drummer lives in Istanbul, so and the rest of the other 4 live in Ankara.
Cool. Well, I'll tell you, it's a cool place. It's a cool place to go, and I remember the shops we'd walk into. The proprietors, the shopkeepers were so friendly. Oh, come in, my friend. And they would offer you, a little drink. You want some Coke, you want some Rocky, which was their version of their drink of choice. They would offer you, whatever it was, and you'd come in the store, shop, You know, something you don't see that in America. You know, there's no store you walk into where they're offering you refreshments.
No, the only place I get that's halfway close, I can be there in 6 or 7 hours is Mexico. You cross into northern Baja and you go into those little stores where they're selling, everything they make, blankets and serapes and hats and you name it. And they're all handing you a glass of tequila when you walk in now. And I mean, it is some good tequila too. My son-in-law bought a bottle last time we were down. It was so good.
I was in Tijuana one time, and I was in this little shop in Tijuana.
Yeah.
And just look at the little knickknacks the guy had. The guy waves me over. He goes, "Senor." And he calls me back. We go behind this curtain. Right. He pulls out this drawer, and he's got all these weapons. I mean, we're talking machine guns.
You're kidding me.
And I said, no.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, if you're an American, you get caught with a gun down there, you go to jail.
Yeah,
we went down there. We went down there to Cuatro Casas, a surf place, 2.5 hours below Ensenada. We used to drive down there and surf. And one of the guys didn't realize that, and he brought a shotgun with him. I thought maybe he'd shoot some birds or something. Because you're out in the desert and stuff. And so I was going to be leaving before the rest of them. They were trying to talk me into taking the shotgun with me, and I'm like, no freaking way! I am not taking that fucking shotgun in my car to cross the border. That's not happening. You just put it back in your rack, or he had some pipe rack on his truck, and he had some things that screwed off, and he had the gun in there. It's like, put it back where you found it. I'm not hauling that thing. I'm not going to jail with your shotgun.
Yeah, back in those days, I was actually in the military.
Oh, okay.
And back in '77 when this happened, I go, nah, trying to get me in trouble.
Right.
There's no way. What would I do with a machine gun anyway? Well, it wasn't just machine guns. There was also this.
What would likely happen? The guy would sell you the machine gun, and then he'd call his buddy, the guy at the federales, say, "Hey, we got this gringo. He bought the machine gun, man. We're gonna get him." And then you get busted, and then you have to pay the guy a little, his little bribe to get.
That's exactly right.
Especially. But still, I mean, nothing's changed.
Right.
Right.
It's not. Yeah, I haven't been down there in a while now. It's probably been 10 years, but we used to go down a couple of times a year, and we had a ball whenever we went. I mean, good food and drink, and the local guy, the fisherman, would pull up in a pickup truck, and the whole bed of the truck would be covered with lobster. I got pictures of me with $4 and $5 lobster that are like massive, And it would be like the meal for the surfers was put a lobster tail on a tortilla, put some salsa and butter on it, and that was the whole meal. A tortilla wrapped around a lobster tail.
See, that's funny.
Washing it down with some good Mexican beer. Don't get me wrong. Had that too.
But it's funny, Royce, because you've got pictures with 4 or 5 lobsters from Mexico. I was looking through Dan's photo albums the other day. He's got pictures with like 4 or 5 hookers from Mexico all around him. That's a joke.
That may have been at an Aska show.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Hey, you know what? I have to commend you guys. I love that intro that you guys had for the show tonight. Very cool. Good job.
Somebody mentioned that the intro was too long. The only reason it was long is because I wanted to, highlight all of George's albums.
Right.
And that
intro was perfect. Whoever's mentioning is too long, watch it again and then reassess.
Well, we have
to me, that was perfect.
At some point, I might play that again during the show.
Yeah, 3 minutes long.
People start adding in later and they don't get to see it,
Yeah.
So
what's great about it is it takes you through basically many stages of my career, and it shows you a lot of what I've been involved in over the years, recording wise, band wise, music wise. You've got many of the bands I've been in, I am in, a lot of the guest work I've done, a lot of the studio work I've done. It's all there. Yeah. It seems to be, and so very cool. Hats off to you guys. Awesome intro.
Well, thanks, Dan. Dan's the technical support here. Hey, let me ask you a question now. Do you
ask her?
I don't know what it'd be like trying to walk, cold turkey out on stage to perform in front of thousands and thousands of people. Do you have some sort of like ritual you go through to like prepare yourself for that, or numb yourself, or whatever it takes? I don't know.
Yeah, I have no ritual. I just go out there and just do it, And for what's helped me, I mean, truly, was long before I got on stage in front of thousands, I was on stage playing for tens and hundreds and things like that. And I did it for so many years that when I finally got the opportunity to get out in front of, these big audiences,
yeah,
it was like, it's just another show, but with more people.
Yeah. With more
and
people.
I treated this pretty much the same way. And of course, being aware that you've got farther reach. There's a lot more people. There's some people way in the back that don't have the same upfront, proximity. But I treat them basically the same way. And it really, it was almost like I'd had all my practice already for this moment or for these moments, so it really didn't faze me. I guess if I'd come out, into instant fame or something, if I walked onto a stage to play for 1,000 people immediately right off the bat, it might have been quite an intimidating thing and nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
The fact that I've been, slogging through the mud for years prior and playing to, audiences that didn't know me. I mean, we like when we do our military tours, we'd show up someplace. Most of these people didn't know Aska or who we were. In the latter years, in the mid 90s and later, when hard radio and internet radio came to be a thing, then we would show up places and some people would be like, oh, I heard Blood of the Wolf. I heard Leprosy. I heard that on hard radio, on the internet. But prior to that, a lot of people didn't know who we were. So we were coming out cold, playing to these audiences and winning them over night after night and working out these techniques and these formulas on how to make friends and influence people from the stage.
I can vouch for some of those shows that I've actually went with you guys on, like Alpine, Texas. We went out there and we had no clue what we were getting into. And all I remember everybody's talking about, let's just get this gig over with, man. We're out here in Big Bend, Texas. There's nothing out here but tumbleweed. Let's just get this show and get the hell out of here.
And an all-girl college.
Then we found out, when we got there, there's an all-girl college there. The place was absolutely packed.
Oh, is that right?
One of the best shows that I've ever been with.
Well, I know why it was one of the best for you, Dan. I know what you were up to that night. That's all I'm going to say. If Dan wants to elaborate or expand upon his experiences, did we go see the Marfa Lights that night? Did we try to go see that?
I think I did.
Did you? Okay. And now what about the rest of us? Did we try to go out or no? We're like, the lights.
No, y'all were too tired that night. I remember knocking on your door and you were trying to get rid of the girls and tell them I'm asleep.
I remember. You know what? I do remember that. We were out there. We had our hotels, and
it was kind of like little cabins.
Yeah, they were cabins. Exactly, and they were great too. But I remember going in there, laying down, and I hear a knock at my door, and I'm thinking, well, it's Dan or one of the guys or something. And I go answer the door, and there's a girl standing there from the show, and she's holding a condom in her hands. And I'm like, oh, man, you know what? Wow, gee. You know what? I'm going to be, why don't you give me about 5 minutes? I'm going to be at that room 2 doors down. I'm going to be in there. And basically I sent it to my drummer's room. I sent it to one of the other guys' room because I was like, for me, it was like, man, if this chick is showing up, condom at the ready. I'm like, no, man, I'm out. It ain't happening tonight. But yeah, that was the course of that evening. It was, I mean, we're talking all girl college, and the majority of the people at that show were ladies. Mm-hmm. So the crew, of course, had a great time. Seeing Marfa Lights, quote unquote.
Well, we drove past them. I didn't really look.
Yeah, no, you were too busy looking at other things, right?
That's when I was young and dumb.
You were young. Yeah, I don't think you were dumb, but you were young. Younger. But we had a great time. But the point was that, yeah, we'd go out to these places where, it seemed like, oh man, this is going to be hard. It's going to be like a dentist office visit. We're going to be pulling teeth here tonight. Right. And, but we'd use up all the techniques that we had developed and learned. And sure enough, man, usually by the first fourth of the show, the crowd was ours. We owned the crowd, and they were eating out of our hands, and everybody was going crazy. And so that it certainly those early days, they honed me. It was almost like training for what was to come.
Well, and it was a little more difficult back then too, because like you said, there was no internet. No. So trying to get the word out, the thing we had to depend on terrestrial radio, the local radio station. So it was always good. We got an interview with the local radio station. Then we expanded. Went out to Shreveport. Got on the Shreveport list. And once they discovered you guys, next thing I know, you guys are in limos the next visit out there. So
yeah.
Once they heard that you were in, so it was always And what was that other gig that we did out there? Ticketmaster with we had Seven Dust, Cold Chamber,
the X Fest.
X Fest, that's what it was. X Fest.
Yeah. Did X Fest? We did several. We did State Fair out there. We did the Red River Rocks Fest. We did X Fest. We did. There for a while, and this going back to Ask a Second record. Had Shreveport been a bigger market, Aska really could have broke through, because they took one of our songs, and I mean, my great love for Lonnie Haskins to this day, he took a song from our second album, Immortal. The song was called You Suck, and put it into regular rotation on 99X radio in Shreveport. And this song played every day, all the time, just on the regular. And people were requesting it. And people were, oh my God, and everybody knew the song. But unfortunately, that is what they call a tertiary market. It's not even a secondary market. It's, deep South Louisiana. It wasn't a big market. So it didn't really blow up from there. But it was fun. It was fun while it lasted.
I've got a lot of video footage from those days out in Shreveport and the State Fair and the interviews at the radio station. I got a lot of footage still. That's pretty cool.
We need to go through some of that stuff one of these days.
I see Karen out in the chat. Is that Karen Farrell? I'm not sure if that's Karen, because she's talking about many great road trips.
She said something about the Louisiana State Fair as well.
I know Karen Farrell was with us on the West Texas tour.
Yeah, that's what happens when you're the sister of the head of security for Aska. Yeah. Alan Farrell, So we often, whenever we'd road show somewhere, it was not unusual to have a whole caravan of people from Dallas Fort Worth following us in cars. It would be like a convoy. Descending on whatever town we had the gig in. So yeah, it was quite fun.
Bus trips,
bus trips, convoys. It was always something. It was always fun and interesting. And the thing is, Aska remains to this day. We still go out and play. As rabid fans come out and they get into it and they love it. We're happy. And our new album coming, our forthcoming album, Night Strike, Keith, Danny, everybody agrees this is going to be our finest moment, our finest recording moment, without a doubt.
Wow. Did you say you already started on that?
It's done.
Oh, it's done. Okay.
It's finished. Yeah, it's ready. What we did on Thursdays, we finished the final touches on all the layouts for the album layouts, the vinyl layouts, the CD layouts, the booklets, the special thanks list, the lyrics, all that stuff that you have to compile and put together. And we don't like to leave those things to the labels, because what ends up happening is it's good, but it's a bit inferior than when we do it ourselves. When we handle the layouts and the stuff, people look at it and go, wow, this packaging is amazing. It's beyond professional. And then when we leave it to the labels, they're like, oh, this looks great. But it doesn't have that extra zing that it gets when we do it. Case in point, if you look at the vinyl version of Nine Tongues, it looks great on the exterior. It's cool and everything. But you can tell we had no hand in it, because when you look at the actual label, the actual record label itself, with the songs you listen to, everything, it's just a plain orange background, slapstick ASCII with the songs listed. We would have put the image, the front cover image on that label. Yeah. On the flip side, we would have put another pose from the front cover image. We would have just gone the extra mile to make it, wow, this is, we got our bang for our buck on this. Whereas the labels are more, they're more complacent. They're more just like, well, whatever, that looks good. That looks good enough. We never went for good enough. We always wanted that extra.
What about the politics of the music business? I mean, you're kind of touching on that a little bit right now, a little bit. Has that been a difficult thing to deal with?
Not so much. Now, once you realize, and we did earlier. I mean, clearly, as young musicians wanting to enter a field, what young men coming into this game, that's the music business. We'd read all the horror stories. So when they started happening to us, we weren't surprised. We were like, oh, yeah, this is what we read about. This is what we heard. And it's happened to the best of them, So we kind of took it in stride, Initially, when you first experience something, you always feel like, oh, man, your initial reaction is, you react angrily, how dare these people? How dare this guy write a bad review? How dare this label not pay us, or sub-license our album without permission, where it says expressly, all those things happen, right? But after you experience it, then it's like, well, that's part of the game. That's part of this business. And
it's really interesting to hear you talking about hearing all the horror stories. It's funny because you can take that same statement and apply it to so many other businesses. It's like, I'm in the construction business primarily, and I heard all the horror stories, people not getting paid from their customers and things like that, and winding up in litigation and things. And so I always lived in fear of that, and I went the extra mile, and it never happened to me. I always got paid.
Knock on wood right now. You better knock on wood, because these things are.
But I mean, like I said, I lived after hearing so many horror stories. I lived in almost. It's not really fear, but it was always uppermost on my mind that if something goes wrong, I need to get paid. I have a family, a house, children to feed, and I need to get paid.
But I've always given. I've got so many friends in the music business, and many would be guys that want to make their living doing music and want to enter that sphere. And my advice to each and every one of them, and to anybody listening tonight, and I'm giving it free. I'm not charging for this advice, but that advice would be: get your money up front. When you're signing a deal, when you're doing a record deal, whatever, be it licensing deal, recording deal, whatever it is, get your money up front. Get your first payment up front before you turn over masters and before you hand over artwork or whatever it is. Get paid up front, because that is often the only check you will ever see from the label. Oftentimes.
I've heard stories of people going out having successful tours, but the labels, managers, and everybody else had so much of their own money invested that when they got done, they were in the hole, and they were playing the large. They were playing the large venues, one right after another, and they still owed like millions of dollars when the tour was over.
I've heard the same. I'm aware of all those same stories, where people say, "Hey, man, we just toured for 2 years. Where's our money?" Well, you got to pay this. You owe for this. Yeah, the label took it. The management needs this much, and then they come out negative. It's like, how the hell did I just tour for 2 years and come out negative?
I know, that just blows me away.
Now, didn't you have an issue with the record company keeping your masters for one of your albums, or the artwork, or something?
Yes. The first label deal that we signed was with a California label, Statue Records, if you remember.
Oh, that's right,
and,
Statue Records.
It was our second album, and they signed us, and they were going to do this, and they were going to do that, and this and that and the other. And I think by the end of the day, they did little to next to nothing, and kept our masters, and kept the original art, and kept all this other stuff. And we were
right. That's crazy.
So quite early on, we learned that labels were mostly places that were not there to benefit the artists; they were there to benefit themselves. Now, also labels are places that they'll sign artists, and they'll throw everything at the wall to see what sticks or what gets them that big hit. And if they're lucky, then they're like, "Hey, wow, this had traction. Great. Let's roll with it." But most everybody else just gets left by the wayside. And that's pretty much our story. We never had a huge hit or a big crowd, whatever band I've been in. I think the most successful band that I've been in, that I'm in currently, was Banshee, because they were initially signed to Metal Blade. Then they made the jump to Atlantic Records with their, their EP was on Metal Blade. Their first full-length record was with Atlantic, and they actually got MTV Play for however many weeks with a single off of their first record. Of course, this was before my time. But so that was, certainly by the gauges at that time, that's quite successful to be on MTV, to have an album out on Atlantic Records.
My entire household is big fans of MTV music videos. They played all the time here, and I think I remember them.
Yeah, Banshee, Now I was, when I was asked to join, it was well after their heyday, and in fact, some things happened, and the band lost their deal. It was just that they were on the cusp of where the music had changed from it gone from glam metal to grunge or alternative had come in, and so many bands were on the chopping block.
Rap had come in too and was diminishing things,
Yeah, for sure.
Hey,
But
Royce, bring up Michael Nolan's last comment there.
Okay.
I'm curious what George has to say about that.
Okay.
Yeah. What does George feel about the lesser-known bands having to pay to play at some of the arenas?
What do I feel about that's nothing new. I hate to ruin or shatter anybody's illusions, but as far back as I can remember, buy-ons have been a thing. Bands have been buying on to big tours. It's nothing new. I mean, how do I feel about it? Of course, it sucks, right? For the lesser band, but for the bigger band, it's often it's those buy-ons that help make the tour viable in the first place. When you're on tour, every single avenue, every single stream of income is crucial to the band making their bottom line, because there are so many expenditures on the road. I mean, you've got hotels, food. I mean, typically, the promoter will cater dinner, right? You get dinner, and oftentimes will also cover hotels. But just as many times, you're on your own for hotels. You're on your own for food, for breakfast and lunch. So you try to get a breakfast, or you try to get a hotel that's got continental breakfast, so that you're home for lunch, and then
something,
course, fuel. You've got fuel costs. You've got equipment costs. You've got. I mean, there's so much expenditure that every stream that's open to you're going to take, from merchandising to the buy-on bands and I mean, even bands that I've been out on tour with have had buy-on bands, believe it or not. I mean, even at our level, bands buy on. We had several come on board with us when I was out just prior to the pandemic, when Cloven Hoof, we did two U.S. we call them Can-Am tours because they're Canadian American tours. And we had bands buy onto that. We had Crown of Earth, and we had Van Layden, and other bands up north and stuff. They would come on so they could, get the exposure of playing with another band that has, a bit more renown or a bit bigger name than they do, so they can hopefully, glom onto that. I've seen friends of mine's bands buy onto Saxon tours and buy onto Yngwie Malmsteen tours. I've offers made for Aska to buy onto the same types of tours. So yeah, it's just part of the business, unfortunately. I wish that it was the fantasy that we all have, that a bigger band would say, wow, these guys are great. We're going to take them on the road with us and champion them. But that's a fantasy. That's not the reality.
Well, Skid Row did that with Pantera, though. When Pantera first started off, I mean, Skid Row took them on their tour. Did you think Pantera was a buy-on?
Absolutely. Now, I don't know. I can't speak with 100% knowledge to that, but yeah, I do. I think they were a buy-on, and in fact, most of those are buy. Even like in the early days. I mean, I learned about buy-ons in the very early days of Aska, the very early days, which was 91, 92.
Yeah.
So it's nothing new. This is not a recent thing in the 2020. Everybody getting greedy. No, it's just that people didn't talk about these things because there was no internet. It was basically these are industry secrets. Industry, it didn't a band didn't want it didn't behoove them to tell you, oh yeah, we're out with Dio because we bought onto this package tour. We paid.
That would be a little.
It's kind of like saying I had sex with a beautiful woman last night, and I had to pay her $100.
And I had to pay her, right? Exactly.
You don't want to brag about that,
Yeah, you want to brag about that I had sex with the beautiful girl, but you don't want to brag about that you paid for that sex.
Yeah.
And that,
Michael Nolan, who asked you that question, is now asking how you feel about using backing tracks. Incidentally, Michael Nolan is a good friend of Dan and mine's. He's got a great YouTube channel. The growth like I've never seen in my life. And he's also a musician.
Cool. Hi, Michael. Thanks for the questions. I appreciate the questions. How I feel about backing tracks, I'll tell you this. Aska doesn't use backing tracks. Banshee doesn't use backing tracks. No band that I've been in has used backing tracks other than for an intro music, When you first walk out on stage, there's a backing track that intros you in, Aside from that, we don't use them. And how I feel about them, I guess they're a bit disingenuous. But I think if the fan knows going in what he's getting, then, so it's up to the bands to be forthcoming, I would say. It's up to the bands to say, hey, this is not all what you're getting here tonight. It's not all live. This is, it's pre-recorded, or this percent of the show is pre-recorded, or all night you're going to be hearing pre-recorded tracks mixed in with the thing. There should be some disclaimer.
It's kind of strange, and I've experienced this when you start hearing certain sounds coming from the band, from the speakers, and those instruments aren't even on stage. It's like, what?
But the first time I ever experienced a band doing a backtrack like that was it really wasn't a band. It was James Taylor, believe it or not. I went to a James Taylor concert.
Yeah.
And there was a duet song that he was doing, and he's sitting on a stool playing his guitar. And then when it came to the second person, there's a tape recorder, and they put the spotlight on the tape recorder. So they're obvious about it. Then they go back to James Taylor. And so they put
clearly he was very open about it.
Yes.
And that's
right.
It's the same thing with I think if you're honest about what you do, people have less of an issue. But when you're deceitful about it, that's when people take umbrage.
Yeah.
That's when people go, this motherfucker, this show is all pre-recorded. Why didn't they tell me? That's when people, and it's become a big issue. I mean, it's become an issue. Now, again, it's not for me. I can play my instrument. I'm good at what I do. And no, it's not going to be exactly like the album. It's not going to be perfect like the album. But we strive to make it as good as possible. And at least people know it's genuine. When you see us, you're seeing the real thing.
Right.
Why bands feel that they have to, make it sound exactly like the record or that sounds like a major insecurity there. I don't know why you have to go that distance. I mean,
you're right. You're right. I've oftentimes wondered if they were really singing live, because it did sound too perfect like the album. Yeah. I don't mean the album's perfect, but I mean it sounded
just like the record. Yeah.
The album. There was no improv or anything.
Right. Yeah. Well, they do the mics that the guys have on stage and whatnot. They are live mics, and they can be. And the guy, the sound man, he can pull them into the mix at any time and pull them right on out of the mix. Really between songs, they're in that mix. So you can hear them talk and, have their ad lib, whatever, impromptu mention the city, the town they're in. But the minute the music starts, those mics they come back down. The live part is mixed out, and the tapes the tracks are mixed in, they're mixed up. And so it's a constant, the sound man is constantly, working these faders up and these down and these up and then these down when the music starts, That's the name of the game with a lot of bands these days, and a lot of big bands and a lot of bands that you would think would know better or wouldn't need to do that, certainly at this stage in their career. But corporatism has taken its place in bands, and they want to give you the most perfect show so you can go home and go, wow! So that the non-musicians in the audience, the general public, can go home and say, wow, they sounded so great. It was so good. And tell their friends, and they get some more repeat business.
Hey, George, I got a question. We kind of talked about this earlier about Pantera and everything, and Blacktooth going to be opening up for Pantera over in Romania. Mm-hmm. Now, my question is, you and I both knew Dimebag and Vinny, and, you performed with Dimebag many times. Okay.
Many.
Now, since they're gone now, and Pantera is back on the road with Zakk Wylde and Charlie Benante. Now, what are your feelings about that? Because basically the Pantera fan base is split. Half the fan base is saying it's a great thing, the other half saying it's disrespectful. I'm just curious, since we knew in person. To me, my opinion is, as long as they keep it as a tribute, and don't call themselves the true Pantera, they're not. It's not a reunion. It can't be. And when this tour when this tour is over with, that they go back to the respective bands, and not record anything. But I was just curious how you felt about that.
Well, my feelings are, I completely understand why they're doing it. Certainly, I mean, Pantera was the biggest traction that the remaining members got. I mean, they were all in different bands. Down, Superjoint Ritual. I think Rex had other things going, But I mean, Pantera was that was their claim to fame, was Pantera. So I totally get why they're doing it and why they want to do it. I also know for a fact that Vinny was 100% against the notion of ever reuniting with Phil and Rex. He wanted no part of it, you know. Now, who knows? I mean, Dime, unfortunately, his life was cut short. It really wasn't an issue at that point. They tried so hard to get Pantera back together in the form that was made famous, you know, with Phil on the vocals and Rex on the bass. But it was they were knocking on a door where nobody was answering, you know, and that's why they, you know, made Damage Plan, and that's why they went on the road, and that's how I think Vinny, he was resentful to the other guys because he feels like being out on the road with Damage Plan is what led to his brother's death and his own near assassination, you know. So I know he didn't want any part of it. But that said, I mean, Vinny is not in it anymore. I mean, he's not there. I mean, and these guys they're carrying on their legacy, you know, the biggest band that they were a part of and that they were involved in. And, you know, it happens all the time where band members, they lose focus or they lose their enjoyment for being in whatever they are. I mean, I look at the examples I use it's my own favorite band, Kiss. You know, Peter and Ace. Peter was fired. Ace left, right? Ace Frehley was abandoned the group, but has come back for money and has come back, you know, as much as I love the fan. No, you love the money. You're back for the money. So at the end of the day, it's a business, and you're doing what you love, but you do want to get paid for what you're doing. So I totally get why they're doing what they're doing. And it's not my band, so it's not my place to say. I mean, it's not my place to say. But it was Vinny's band, and it was his place to say. And what Vinny said was, Ixnay. He didn't want anything to do with it, you know. And whenever it was proposed to him, he was like, fuck no, hell no, fuck those guys. I will never reunite with those guys. That's straight out of Vinny's mouth. Now,
you know, between from the time Pantera did their last show, which is 2001, you know, and the debut of Damage Plan in February 2004, that time span there, that's when Dime and Vinny came to the shows a lot, you know, because they had nothing else to do. And I remember Dime told me one time,
free. They had free time.
He goes, I feel like I'm Jones and I got to get my stage time. You know, he just had to be on stage again, you know. So, and it was also cool too, because we could hear what was going on firsthand, you know, as far as they're playing a Damage Plan. Oh, they got this singer, you know, and everything they were going through to get Damage Plan together. We were firsthand knowledge of all that, which is pretty cool. You know, we knew it before anybody else. A lot of things that are, to this day, that aren't made public that I'm aware of that happened during the formation.
Oh, same here.
Same here. There's some stuff that public will never know.
Yeah, some behind the scenes tidbits and stuff, but I mean, it's probably better that way. But you know, back to your question, certainly, you know, that was very public. Vinny made it public. Every interview he gave. No, I will never play with these guys again. You know,
and he hasn't.
And he hasn't, and he won't. You know, I mean, he's passed. So, but so yeah, you can't say, oh, these guys can't do that. Why not? I mean, if Peter Criss and Ace Frehley wanted to go out as Kiss or a Kiss tribute or something, who would tell them no? Who would tell them no? They were part of the original experience, you know. They were part of the original.
Now, what do you think if Paul Stanley and Gene Simmons leaves the band and they're replaced by two other people? So you got four people that aren't original at all. Now, what do you think about that?
That would be the end of my Kiss loving days.
Okay.
I mean, it's already severely strained because they have Tommy Thayer and Eric Singer, both phenomenal musicians in their own right, deserving of their own characters. They've got them wearing Peter and Ace's makeup.
Yeah.
It doesn't sit well. I'm still a fan. I love Kiss.
I can see that.
But that does it almost rings it rings as false, you know. It comes off as very contrived. And the excuses that they give for it, I don't buy. Well, it's like a football team. No, but it's not a football team. I'm not up there. I'm not cheering for my football team. I'm cheering for these guys. I like Ace Frehley, Peter Chris. I know these guys by name. So there's a difference between a hardcore fan and the casual fans that just see look. So Kiss today is geared to the casual fan, not the hardcore fan.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. So yeah, you know, it's strained my fandom, and once the original guys leave, the two holdovers, then it's over for me. I don't care. Oh well, we've got two new guys. You know? I'm done.
Well, didn't Gene Simmons got sick just the other night? Right, had to leave stage. Something was wrong. What's the story behind that? Do you know?
The story is that the chair that he sat in is for sale for $7,000.
I heard about that. Yeah, that's true.
I think that's a meme, though. I think it's a joke.
Oh my God!
I don't think that's true. You know, I think somebody was just making that up.
Well, you know, I know Vinnie Paul had a stove one time. He had his stove replaced, and Video Bob gets it and sells it on eBay, you know, for a nice little price. You know, but it's rock star junk, you know.
Right.
But you know, it's you know what they say: one man's garbage is another man's treasure.
That's true.
So I mean, it's like these guys could sell their Kleenexes on eBay, and
totally anything. Right.
Yeah, somebody would buy it. I mean, the only thing is that I think eBay has a policy about selling bio-organic stuff. You can't do that. You can't sell liquid, you know.
Right.
You know, you can't sell that kind of stuff from your body. Organs, you can't sell those things. But people would buy it. I mean, guaranteed. I mean, Dan, do you remember Rascals?
Oh yeah.
Remember that place?
Little bitty place.
Well, I remember. Yeah, a little bitty place, and you know, at the level we were then, I remember playing this venue, and coming off stage, and a girl coming up to me saying, $50 right now for your T-shirt, your sweaty, cut-off T-shirt, you know, that said Saudi Arabia on it. I said, sold. You know, I'm not too proud. You know, I understand why Gene Simmons. It's commerce. You know, we live in a capitalist country, and if you can make money, and make a fan happy by selling them a piece of, you know, music history or something that you wore or something that you played or something that you owned or whatever.
Right.
Why not? I mean, I'm a communist. I'm not against, you know, people.
Enterprise, yeah.
People enterprise.
Well, I remember this one this female fan. Remember y'all did this cable access show, Dallas Rocks? Back in
I remember that.
I think August of '95. Okay, now I recorded it. You know, of course, I was one of the cameramen there during doing all that. But you know, once it was over, I got a copy of the video, and I made a couple copies. And I think we were auctioning them off or whatever at one of the shows. A girl bought a copy of the original from a cable access show for $60. I'm going, oh my God!
There you go.
Do you remember who that was?
I don't. But you know what?
It starts with a P.
P? No idea.
Okay. I won't mention any names.
No idea. but I'll tell you, you know, there's been a lot of that over the years. So if it happens at our level, you know, if it happens on the level of a band that has no top 40 presence ever, then can you imagine on a Kiss, on a Bon Jovi level, on a Metallica level, on a Megadeth? Right. I mean, it's, you know, it's got to be through the roof. You know, you guys know, have you heard of the band 6 Feet Under? Metal Blade band? Chris Barnes, singer.
I haven't heard.
He used to be in Cannibal Corpse, this guy. Well, they're a great band. I love the band. They're one of those, America. You know, they're real. It's one of those real thrash, heavy, you know,
growl,
death metal type bands. And I interacted with Chris Barnes on his Facebook page. He's got this thing. There's a deal where the musicians make these it's called Cameo, where you can hire a musician to send you out a personalized greeting, right? For your birthday, for whatever special occasion, for your bar mitzvah, whatever it may be, your special occasion. And Chris is like, oh, I love doing these cameos, come on, everybody, come on. I think he gets $60 a pop or something. And I went through and I looked how many cameos he done. I go, dude, you're making more money with the cameos than you are from your record deal, aren't you? Absolutely.
Wow.
He didn't mince words. He was making more money selling his greetings, his minute greetings or 30-second video greetings than he was, from any royalty check or advance on any record, So that's reality. You as a musician, you're going to find all of your avenues, all of your streams to get paid and get paid. And there's nothing wrong with that. I don't know why people somehow they think that, oh, well, musicians just do it for the love of the thing only. Yeah, we love it, but you want to get paid too. Right. We're not. Just like any job, right? Nobody goes and scientists. They love science, but they want to get paid at the end of the day. They've got bills. Absolutely. They're not just doing it for the love of discovery alone.
Right.
And it seems like there's a mindset out there that likes to castigate, crucify musicians for being enterprising, for being capitalistic in their, And I would love to see them. I would love to say, okay, I'll tell you what. We'll all start doing just as you wish. As soon as you go and tell your boss and your work that you're no longer wanting to be paid for your services, you're going to do whatever you do for the love of the craft and for the love of the, of whatever it is you do for a living, for passion, silly. Really.
Hey,
people do it all the time.
I wasn't going to. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I wasn't going to ask you this, but you told the funniest story about your playing in Saudi Arabia and how you guys were viewed by the audience. You mind repeating that story?
Yeah, we were meat. Is that the story you're talking? Like when they?
It is.
Yeah, we were. I mean, we know. Certainly as a band at that time, what it felt like to be a female, and to be, ogled and, touched, without your approval, without your consent, non-consensual contact. And so because we were, here we were, four long-haired guys, playing music or, appearing and immediately, many of the audience members, when we were in the local communities, were, looked at us like, wow, this is, man, we're truly the best of both worlds, and we were young too, so we were real pretty, long hair, earrings, and we were cute. The man in us hadn't set in yet, so 20-year-olds, wow, look at these guys, and we were,
like hitting on you and
they would hit on us. They would, put hands on the knees and, hands in your hair and guys sidling up to you at the urinal. I remember our drummer at the time, Jason Sweat, coming out of the bathroom and just throwing punch in the air, like shadow boxing, because he was harangued in the back. This guy came up to me at the urinal and he was looking at me and saying, "Oh, hello, what do you name? I am a dude. What's your name?" And he was just losing his mind. We're like, dude,
that's
it's all good. Funny. Just roll with it. Roll with it, and don't give up the ass. I also remember we teased our guitar player at the time, Darren Nett. We teased him, unmercifully when we were in the United Arab Emirates and in a city called Fujairah. Beautiful. We were staying at this 5-star Hilton on the water. You know, I mean, just beautiful. Keith and I and myself, we had a nice cabin right on the water, on the sand. You know. The other guys, but every night at the bar, you know, after the shows or whatever, we'd go into the bar, and where drinking is allowed. This wasn't Saudi Arabia. This is United Arab Emirates, UAE, and these men were hitting on Darren, and one in particular was he would not take no for an answer, and you know, Darren kept talking to him. The guy was just kept buying him drinks. And so by the end of the night, we're like, Darren, come on, man. Don't leave your boyfriend hanging. Don't leave him hanging. He wants you. He sees you. Look at him, man. Come on. And we're like, fuck you guys, man. F you guys. We're like, come on, man. It's cool, man. Come on. You guys make a good couple. We just teased him relentlessly. But we were good sports, you know. Darren hung out with the dude all night. And then we all left, you know, everybody went back there, and what Darren and the guy did, nobody knows. How you like that, Darren? How you like that one? You know, maybe you can interview Darren one day, and he can clear up the rest of the story.
maybe Darren showed him his wooden leg.
I don't know. But it was, I mean, I'll tell you, it was a blast. It was fun. It was great. And I wouldn't trade any of it for anything. I mean,
you guys got to see some really cool stuff when you're over there. I mean, you've been to the pyramids, you've been to the Sphinx. I mean, you guys have seen it all.
Seen it all. Been there, done that. Like I said, been the geyser, the hot geysers in Iceland. You know, we were in, you know, you name it. Also, we went to Guantanamo Bay. I was just watching a movie about that the other day. We were in Guantanamo Bay. You know, very few people get to go there. We went there.
That's right.
And loved it. Absolutely loved it. You know, I never thought I'd go to Cuba. You know, sure enough, went to Cuba. You know, Saudi Arabia. I mean, we've seen. I mean, just a totally different culture. The other predominant culture in the world, we got to experience it. And in Saudi, with their strict limitations on, you know, drinking, pornography, drugs, adultery, you know, and here we were. It's like, wow, unbelievable. You know, it was like being in another world. And hearing, yeah.
Didn't y'all go to Indonesia as well?
Yeah, we went to Singapore. We were in
Japan.
We were in Japan, Korea, all of the South Pacific, Australia, of course. But in Indonesia, it was Singapore was the place we went, and you know, got to experience some of the cleanest streets in the world. As chewing gum in Singapore is outlawed, you're not allowed to do it. You're not allowed to have it there in the streets.
Wow.
And and if you're caught chewing gum, I think you get arrested and you get a fine. And so very clean streets, and that's the reason why they don't like the chewed gum look on the sidewalks and everywhere. You know, where people spit out their gum. Right. They don't have that. So it, you know, I mean, again, I wouldn't trade it for the world. It's been fantastic. You know, the experiences with ASCA, and then, you know, to come out of that, when we stopped touring for the military, then we did shows, you know, in the civilian world, and you know, we went to Europe and whatnot, and then with the numerous other bands I joined, just continued to add to the list of countries, you know, beginning with Omen.
Y'all been to Germany quite a few times, haven't you?
Many times, yeah. With every band I've been in except Banshee, I've been to Germany. You know, so
nice.
What's the name of that festival y'all go to out there? Keep It True.
That's one. Yeah, that's the one where the guy, the promoter, doesn't like me and has banned me from his festival. You know, after playing it 3 times, he decided he doesn't like me anymore, and the reasons change every few years. You know, why I'm banned at that festival. I've committed no crimes. I've never been arrested. I've never been to jail. I haven't murdered anybody. I haven't raped anybody. I haven't hurt anybody. But for some reason, I'm not welcome on that stage. It's just fine by me. I've played it 3 times already. I headlined it once. So, man, to each his own. I am welcome at just about every other festival out there, though, and I've played them all. True Rhyme, Bang Your Head, on and on ad infinitum. Headbangers Open Air. I played so many festivals in Europe. It's hard to keep track of them.
Coachella's going right now here.
Coachella, I've never played that. I don't know. That's not really my kind of music festival.
No, it's not. No,
they don't cater to our kind of thing. To my, they're more mainstream.
Your type of festival would be the Power Trip Festival. It's going to come up in October out there. Where you got Metallica, Guns N' Roses, Tool, Ozzy. I mean, everybody's going to be out there. All the Iron Maiden.
That'd be more in line with our kind of thing. Certainly anywhere the Iron Maiden, that'd be more our kind of thing. But those sound like they've got really big names. So I don't know if they're messing with the smaller bands.
Well, they said they said they're going to add on more bands later on, possibly.
Cool.
But I checked into going out there to see that concert. Yeah, I'd have to refinance the damn house to go see that concert. Holy crap!
Yeah, they've gotten a little cost prohibitive, some of these fests.
Then you got your hotels that you got to stay at or camp out. Yeah. A hotel for those 3 nights, $6,000.
Oh, that's insane. They do say though, there is a ticket for every price range. It's just a matter of do you really want to go nosebleed? Travel all the way to California, or wherever, just to go sit in the nosebleeds or in a way in the back. You might as well stay home.
Yeah.
Unless you just really like to be hot and sweaty and miles away from the band.
Yeah. Right.
Well, I thought about it, but I'm not a young man anymore. I mean, I used to go to those outdoor festivals all the time.
Yeah.
But at my age now,
you went to Texas Jam, right? You went to the original one.
I went to the very first one, and I've been to several of them after that. But 120 degrees on the Cotton Bowl floor.
Yeah, we talked about that. I was at the California Jam, and it was the same way. We were just sitting there roasting, packed in, and it was. I never went to California Jam too. I didn't want to. After that,
yeah.
I remember my daughter went to the big festival, Edge Fest, they had at Texas Motor Speedway back in about 99, I guess it was. It was a long time ago, and it was my daughter's first outdoor festival, and I told her how to prepare for it. Like, whatever, Dad, whatever. She learned her lesson.
Hey, guys, you know what? Hey, do you guys mind if I show the video Dan made one more time?
No, it's up to George.
Yeah, because probably most of the people watching right now never got to see it. Okay, so here we go.
3 minutes.
man. Excellent job, Dan. That was fantastic.
Very nice. You know what? We should. I see some of the other bands I'm in there. We should probably talk about some of those. Some of the other bands I'm in, and you know, because I'd certainly like to mention the band Legion of the Dog that I'm in, which features probably the most famous musician that I've played with, most successful, which is Scott Dalhover of Dangerous Toys.
Oh, yeah.
And it's kind of our little pet project thing that we've got going. It's called Legion of the Dog. Those familiar with Dangerous Toys know that they got a gold record for their first album. So it's for me, it's like, wow, it's great to play with them. Because one, I was a fan. I bought that record. I own that stuff. I had it on cassette. I even bought the cassette single. I had it on CD, all that stuff. So when the opportunity came up where I could get together with Scott and play with his boys, Donovan and Michael, I thought, wow, this is cool, you know. And we've got a new album that is nearly complete that we've been working on. And I think I'm not sure. I think we have one song left to do, and then maybe some fixes and maybe some overdubs on some background vocals and things like that. And that record will be coming out. So I'm looking forward to having that out there too. And we've actually gone out and played a few shows here throughout Texas, and I'm looking forward to people hearing that also. Banshee, who we talked about earlier, I'll be doing my third record with Banshee. I think we begin cutting that it's probably June or July this year. The songs are written. What I've heard so far, I can tell you Terry has outdone himself. The guy's just a phenomenal songwriter. Always a joy to work with him. And, you know, Terry Dunn and I think our relationship, Terry Dunn from Banshee, is proof that, you know, that I can work with and get along with anybody, because Terry is as far left spectrum as it gets in vocal, politically speaking. And I'm quite the other way, you know, so, and even though we stand on different sides of the aisle politically, when we come together, man, we make beautiful music, and we do. And the politics certainly doesn't stand in our way of working together. It doesn't stop us from doing, you know, our songs and saying what we need to say. And I think, you know, often when I see the way, you know, Terry and I work and get along and everything, I go, you know, you don't have to agree about everything with everybody.
Right. That's exactly right.
You know, I mean, and it's so ludicrous that people, you know, well, if he doesn't think like me, that's it. Forget it. I'm never talking to that person, or I don't want them on my friend. Now, I understand why people don't want people of a different political persuasion on their pages, on their social media, because of this reporting thing, which just got so out of hand. You know, oh, he said something that hurt my feelings or offends my sensibilities. Report. That thing will get you blocked and banned, and so nobody likes that. But it'd be nice if we go back to being like in the old days, where people could have their thoughts, whatever side of the spectrum they're on, and you could, you know, agree to disagree and move on, right? You know,
yeah.
Move on from it.
That's the way it used to be, you know. You know, it's really gotten ugly.
Wouldn't it be? You know, sometimes things are better the way they used to be.
Yeah,
it really has. It really has. No, you know, think like me or else. It's
that's
where did that
kind of where we're at right now with
that
people.
You know, that to me is the mind of somebody that hasn't matured, or somebody that doesn't
right. I agree completely.
Have any logic or common sense. That's exactly. I was always live. I will not shy away from who I am and from my thoughts and my beliefs for anybody. For anybody. I will never back down the way I feel for anybody. But by the same token, I give that same leeway. I wouldn't expect anybody else to do so either. I mean, it's like, hey man, I've got my thoughts, you've got your thoughts. Now let's move on. Move on. You vote your guy, I vote my guy, and let's move on from there. We don't have to hate each other or tear each other down or want to destroy each other or bring down the entire house of cards because we disagree on something,
Right, exactly.
And it's always not necessarily politics either. It's almost like anything. I mean, you look at music, there's people that'll fight to the death over a certain band, and it's like, whatever, dude, you got your opinion. I think they suck. Oh, well, I think, they're great. Well, whatever, people have different opinions and you got to respect it.
Yeah. Well, you know what? You don't have to respect it, but what you have to do, what Americans have done for years over, we tolerate, right? Tolerance is right. So, okay. That's the word. This person, some of it, we're going. I don't agree with him. I don't even respect his opinion but I tolerate. I'm not going to kill him. I'm not going to fight him over him.
If we're not going to tolerate each other's differences, what does the future hold? I mean, there are other countries where differences aren't tolerated. Look what they're like,
Yeah, a whole lot of African countries that are that way, where there is zero tolerance. This tribe will fight this tribe to the death, and millions will die, and have died. And that's what happens when intolerance becomes the rule of the day. So we don't have to respect, we don't have to accept, we have to tolerate each other if we're going to live together.
Right.
Exactly. If people don't want to live together anymore, then continue the intolerance, and we'll see where that gets us.
We'll see where it ends. Yeah. It's not going to end well.
See that ending well.
Thank you so much for coming back on. We love having you on the show. You're a great, great guest. A lot of great stories.
Oh man, my pleasure.
Yeah, you do a wonderful job when you come on. We really appreciate it. And Dan, thank you for your connection to George.
Well, thank you. I thank you guys for having me.
Oh, no. This was a lot of fun. And Dan, thank you. And George, thank you. And I want to thank everybody in the chat.
I'd come whether Dan was there or not.
Okay. We're going to sign off now. I just want to thank everybody for watching. If you're not a subscriber, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. We're trying to build right now. And thank you all very much. And that's what's happening in ROYCE's world today. So good night, everybody. Thank you again.
Good night.